Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Brandon Barnes here with the REsimpli podcast, and I want to thank our guest, Jamison Worst. Exactly how it sounds. I want to thank you for taking the time today to hop on here and talk some real estate, man. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely, Brandon. So thanks for having me on here. So yeah, I'm right here in the West Michigan, Grand Rapids market, and born and raised right here. But I went to school locally, Grand Valley State University. And when I was in school, I guess, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, when I grow up, But ever since I was a little kid, really just I was always been interested in real estate, right? We took road trips as a kid. I loved driving through the city and seeing the big buildings, especially at night with the lights on, just like, man, I want to, be in real estate as a little kid just kind of intrigued me, right? But, in college, just kind of floundering, not really having a direction. I ended up working with, actually my dad. He owned a finance company, basically a financial advisory company in town. So his dad, my grandpa, owned it before him. So kind of like a little bit of a pressure, whether or not it was actual pressure or just internal pressure to join my dad. So I ended up just doing that right out of college. And so that's what I ended up doing for about 12 years during the recession of 08, 09. And yeah, I got married in that time and have 3 little kids now. So
awesome.
Good times. What?
And so you started real estate. That's interesting. You thought about it as a kid. I was complete opposite. It never even crossed my mind until I bought my first house, of even the thought of owning a house. So it's pretty amazing that even just having that recollection.
So part of it though, so like, my parents were in Amway. So as a kid, and right, a lot of people hate on Amway, but it's a really great business, great company. And what they're real big into like mindset, right? Obviously, maybe some people think they take it a little bit too far, but so as a kid, I remember going to an Amway convention. They brought Robert Kiyosaki out on there. So like as like a 12-year-old, right? This is like early 90s when he before he got big, or like shortly before he got big. And so like, the whole, everybody's favorite book is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, that was me as a 12-year-old, right? Like just seeing it like, oh man, that's crazy. So, I mean, I was exposed to kind of that mentality as a kid yet. So, but the problem for me is, and right, you mentioned before we got on the podcast, but like I'd never been really good at just making a decision, right? I just mentioned that I just kind of floundered in college. I thankfully, I found my wife, and it took me way too long to propose to her, and just being really indecisive for a very long time. I think if I could just go back, I'd probably just make decisions quickly, a lot more quicker than I did. But yeah, I ended up being a financial advisor for almost 13 years, and I never really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the personal aspects of it, right? Like developing a relationship with customers, right? Get to see them often and talk to them often. I miss that part about it, but I'm in real estate right now. So, right, I don't really play in the stock market much anymore at all. So,
gotcha.
Never really enjoyed that part about it.
During that time as a financial advisor, did you buy any rentals or do anything?
Yeah. So my brother and dad bought a property in 2005. And so I was like, well, they can buy a property. I'm gonna buy a property too. So actually me and my cousin, who was an investor and realtor, and my brothers, we kind of all went in on a property in 2007, actually, a big historic property in the historic district. So they were like, my cousin is supposed to be like the money partners, sort of teaching us how to do it. And we did all the work. So definitely learning experience coming in the recession, right? Obviously we bought it too high because everything tanked. Shortly after that, we got stuck into a giant 15-month rehab project that was kind of a nightmare. But yeah, full gut, like baptism by fire, man.
First house, full gut during, wow, that's no fun. So
yeah. Oh my goodness.
So what year did you start, getting into real estate, wholesaling, agent kind of?
Right. So as I was a financial advisor, just kind of like I wasted a lot of time, when I'm not, I should have been like calling clients, I'd be up there like researching, how do I do this deal or whatever. So I actually ended up buying a couple flip properties in 2010, I believe, while I was still as a financial advisor, and ended up kind of halfway doing the work myself, half like contracting a lot of it out to used a realtor, and actually I hired a local guy to just sort of like be a mentor, short term. And so, I did that for a little bit, and it just kind of got a little bit burned out. Just I had too many things going on in life and didn't have enough time, mental energy. So I took a little break again. And then in 2016, the end of 2016, my dad retired and I sold our practice to another guy, and which was a great move. And, so I was full-time. January 1st, 2017 is when I full-time just bid it, went into real estate full-time. And honestly, like, I should have done it earlier. My wife was a full-time registered nurse while I was a financial advisor. I should have done it earlier. We had that extra income. I was able to kind of build a business a little bit. I got my license in 2014, so I started to do like realtor deals and stuff like that too. So I got to a point where I could prove to myself that, hey, I can do it. So again, maybe a little indecisive. If I would have just gone 100% all in, it would have been better if I would have just done that instead of just taking forever. So
it's amazing how, but it's for some people it's real estate, some people it's health, some people it's getting married. There's so many things that it's so easy to look back now and be like, man, I wish I would have
certainly
full time. And
but if I could give my younger self some advice, it'd be like, man, like, look at what you got. Like, you don't have kids at the time. Like, I have 3 kids now. I didn't have kids at the time. I had my wife was working, so we did have some extra income there. I'm like, there's no reason why I shouldn't do this. Like, burn the boats, like, go all in.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, who cares? Like, so get a job then or whatever, right? Just go all in, give it 6 months, just crush it for 6 months. Anyway, that's my advice to anybody listening to this. Like, figure out a way to go all in.
I remember, I was going to tell you a little bit about before we start recording, like, my journey was I got approached to kind of help somebody start a real estate business. And so I was kind of an employee, it was kind of a really weird gray area. I don't know what I was, truthfully. But they said, hey, here's a couple $1,000s. This is all I can pay you for the next 60 days. And any deals that we get sold. Now, for me, it was a little bit quicker. I was working kind of next to a hedge fund, so doing deals was a lot faster and a lot easier. This was back before hedge funds were cool. Nobody knew who they were when I was selling to them. And but anyways, I remember I worked for a local restaurant here in Charleston, and I was telling you, it was a Friday night. A lead comes in on my phone. I take my phone, I go back in the office, and I call the seller. Meanwhile, the kitchen's getting crushed, the restaurant's getting crushed, and I'm back there talking to the seller. And I was like, that was my sign.
Where did you go, man? Where'd Brandon go?
And apparently I was good enough because I put my notice in and they kept me. So I remember sitting in an office at the end of that night, and I was like, this isn't fair to the new person that is trusting me to kind of help start this business, nor is it fair for the business I work for. And fortunately, I was able to just kind of rip the Band-Aid off. But like you think about what's the worst thing that can happen. Sure, you fall flat on your face. Especially the less you have, in a sense of like children, if you have a wife with income, okay, go get a job. It may be tough for a couple months for you to make some money and do some stuff, but at the end of the day, I have 2 kids now, so for me to go back to zero is a big push. You have 3 kids. For you to go back to zero is a much bigger push.
But I will say too, like, part of it is, and anybody listening to this, right? Like, my life has been pretty good. Physically great, so I'm sure there's other people that, right? I know people who are just in rough spots in life. But I think number one is you got to just decide, like, hey, I'm going to go to this direction. Okay, maybe not like this second, but this is the direction I'm going. So decide to do something and go. But like, you got to be working on your mindset, right? Like, here in the real estate investor community, we're like, everybody harps on mindset, but as I'm growing older and been around it long enough, and just like, it is so important to just have positive mindset. Like talk to a mentor, find somebody that can be an outside source of good advice, right? Somebody who's doing it and that can, help you on your path, like give you a little bit of a, sounding board, if you will, just to help you feel more comfortable with the path that you've chosen, you decided to take. So, but yeah, it comes down for me, like, make a decision, surround yourself with good people, get your mindset right, and just go. That seems like that's pretty much it, right?
That simple.
Easier said than done, I suppose, right?
Yep. So tell us a little bit about your business. What does your business look like now? So you've been doing it for what, 5-6 years?
Yeah. So full time. I've always had this retail component because I'm licensed, and I do encourage anybody who's out there, get your license. I mean, when we're focusing on wholesaling this year. We've done some flips, some burrs, kind of a little bit of everything in the past. Right. We have rentals. I've rented, sold stuff on lease option. Done a lot of random stuff, but this year we're just doing wholesaling. And the way that we kind of approach customers, like obviously we want the cash offer. So we give them a cash offer. We also tell them about, hey, if you listed it, what would it look like to list? Because a lot of people just, they're maybe not super motivated. They just want the cash. They just want a good, the highest price. Great. Let's either list it ourselves or you can farm it out to another agent. So we take on the listings ourselves. We have a decent process to get it done pretty quickly and easily. But and then you can also throw at them like a terms deal to them, like payments deal. So we don't do that a ton. It just depends on the customer, on the deal. So, but it's been mostly cash offers with that. Here's what you probably could list it for, and just let them decide. Let them decide what they want to do. Because we're not here. They're the hero, right? We're just here to help them guide them through their problems and their stuff. So obviously a lot of that is work for us, right? Working through just different weird title issues or whatever, but it's right. It's their choice, and we don't want to be pushy. We don't want to give them the choice. However works best for them, essentially.
And so do you have a salesperson? Are you the salesperson? I know you're local in your market.
Yep. So actually my brother-in-law, Mike, he's our full-time acquisitions manager. So he does all the upfront stuff. We had been doing in-person appointments. We kind of switched to doing mostly like phone appointments, phone offers and stuff like that, just because it's easier. I mean, once in a while he still has to go to an appointment live. Just again, it depends on the customer. If like we have some old people that just, they don't have computers, so we got to get physical paperwork signed. And so we're local, so it's not that big of a deal for them to just quick run across town and do it. It's Grand Rapids. We don't have like LA traffic, so it's really pretty easy to get around.
Yeah, it's not a 3-hour commute from one side to the other to do it.
Yeah, right. So I do run our dispo on our team. So I do, and I like that. I like meeting investors at properties. I like chatting with investors. So it kind of works out really well. He likes meeting with people, solving problems. I like working with the investors. So I think if we grew, it would be the last thing that I give up, I think, is the dispo stuff, because I enjoy it. Gotcha.
And are you guys, so wholesaling is the one thing that I have never been good at. We're a fix and flip company. We wholesale maybe 4 or 5 a year. And it's my wholesale's like me calling one of my friends that buys, hey, I have this property, you pay me X, you can have it. And do you have big showings? Like, what's kind of your technique to doing dispo now versus, because I've seen it evolve as somebody who buys from wholesalers kind of evolve over the last couple of years.
For sure. Yeah. So once we get it under contract, and our process is sort of like, it's changed a bit too in the past few months, but once we get something under contract, we want to make sure that we can sell it. So like we got one right now that we haven't received like it's in the deceased husband's name. We haven't received like the authorized personal representative from the probate court. So I don't feel comfortable sending that to my buyers until we get that sheet. So we make sure we can absolutely close on it before we send it out to our buyers. But essentially, like we have kind of a VIP buyers list that we have that, people that I know and trust that they can close on it. But honestly, we send it out to all of our buyers. We shoot it via email. Usually the next day I'm also shooting it out on different Facebook groups locally. Sometimes we'll text it out. It just depends on the interest. And
do you do like one big showing? Are there like, how do you?
Yeah, we do one just for, you got to keep it efficient, right? So we do a 1-hour investor inspection. So we'll book that a few days after we send out the marketing. just to give people enough time to kind of look at it and ask questions. And yeah, obviously in our email too, we have links to all our pictures and walkthrough video. And then we have some little details about the deal as well. But obviously as a wholesale deal, when we pick an offer, they're going to be able to see that original purchase agreement, all those original documents before they close. But yeah, it's pretty, as a wholesaler, right, it's my job, and I owe it to my team to get the best possible price on a property, of course, right? So, sometimes we have to come and renegotiate it with a seller. Sometimes, frankly, we just cancel the offer because it's just not working. But yeah, we try to maximize as much as we can. But we also try to put it out at a price that's we know a flipper is going to be able to take it on. I hate seeing just garbage deals, and I know wholesalers got to do what they got to do, right? Just to put deals out there, and something's going to stick. But oh man, we try our best to negotiate a deal up front that's going to work for an buyer, right? Yeah. We want to set expectations well for our seller, as well as the buyer, of course. So
this part, this is genuine curiosity.
Yeah.
When somebody lives in the house and they're there, are you transparent with them? Do you let them know that your partner is going to buy it? That's all.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. Cause we do occasionally close on them. So we kind of position it hey, this one's it's tight, it might be difficult for us. We're going to try to find another, financial partner or somebody to partner on this one with us. They're going to be closing on the property essentially. So yeah, we're very transparent with our sellers. I think you have to be, and I think honestly, it builds trust with them as well. They know what you're doing, right? We're not used car sales guy. No offense to anybody.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, I just feel like it's just part of the thing, right? We want to build one of our core values is integrity, and so we just want to be upfront, integrity and transparency. So yeah, upfront with everybody.
And I think that's the way to build wholesale businesses now. I've the best wholesalers that I've purchased from or worked with here, from what I can understand, because sellers, I've been to walkthroughs where there have been 50 buyers there, and the seller's sitting at the kitchen table just eating breakfast. And I'm just the only way that you can have that happen is you got to do a really good job of being upfront, being transparent, because you can't just send 50 random people through somebody's house without, having some rapport or something built up.
Yeah, exactly. So I did early on, I had a house in 2017 that I failed to set proper expectations for people, and mostly because it was a vacant, condemned house, so there wasn't anybody living there. But for my buyers, yeah, I think we had about 80 people go through the house, and it was a hoarder house, so there was not hardly any room to even breathe in that place. And so everybody was kind of pissed off at me for not setting expectations, I guess, a little bit on that one.
Yeah. And so for you new people getting into it,
yeah,
this is key. Don't try to be the guy that's I'm gonna slide somebody in or go behind their back or do this stuff. Just be upfront with people, and people are more willing to work with you.
100%, absolutely, right? In a world where, right, everybody's sick of getting spam calls or sick of getting their identity stolen, right? I feel like just being straightforward is just such a breath of fresh air for people anyway. So why not just be a human to another human, right?
And honestly, that's why I've struggled to wholesale. Is I sit in somebody's, because we do face-to-face. I'm the only person on our team, and I sit in somebody's living room, and I'm just going to buy it. That's just the way that anytime I've tried to get a wholesale price, or, I'll do the MAO and minus whatever for a wholesale price. If I have the mindset that I'm going to wholesale it, I've always missed it. Where if I've offered that same thing as a flipper, I'm going to buy it. And I think it's just a confidence thing. It's a mindset thing.
Oh yeah, it's certainly, you got limited beliefs as to how that appointment's going to go. Certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's part of it, right? Is setting expectations, or my acquisitions manager, he talked about leaving the door wide open, right? Hey, look, this is gonna be a tough one. We're going to try it, but this is what might happen. Okay. We might have to come back because, there's an octopus furnace, right? That's going to be 14 grand. There is, whatever, there's mold everywhere. Whatever. right? This is gonna be tough. So yeah, being upfront.
Yep. And the best sellers know that you're going to make money. Like we're
And you
closing.
let them know that. So even
Yeah.
if like if you're gonna do an ovation, right? Like you have to let them know, like, right, hey, you're okay with us making like $5 billion on this, right? Like you don't care. You don't just care about getting your 100 grand, right? Like that's okay. Great. I mean, obviously we're not gonna make $5 billion on it, but you're okay if we make, something on it, 50 grand. I mean, would that be okay? I mean, I don't know what we'll make on it. Like I don't think we'll make that, but we're gonna try.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Like, and then you come back and, hey, you said it was okay if we made this. Like we didn't. Maybe we made 30 grand on it. Like, okay, we haven't done a lot of innovations, but I know from other friends that do them a lot. Yeah, again, setting that expectation, like having that conversation with your customers, just making sure they know what's going on, that you're being transparent with what you're planning on doing, and then obviously you do what you're going to say you're going to do.
Yeah.
Right. You just said you were going to do this, so do it.
Yep. Absolutely. And so it's funny, I got a text from one of my sellers and it's one I'm wholesaling at the end of the month. And his text was, thanks for taking care of this. I hope you make a ton of money on this house. Cause again, it was just quick. It was efficient. It was easy for him. And he knows cause the whole family was upset as far as like the granddaughters, they were leeching off everybody and they were pissed off and they weren't anybody to be concerned with it. But I solved the person's problem and his brother's problem and it was over. And again, for the people that are just getting into this or just starting, everybody knows you're doing this for profit. Obviously be transparent with them, let them know it's not a charitable act. It's okay that we're going to give and we'll probably do something good with it. Like we donate to some stuff, but at the end of the day, we have to make money to survive.
And don't beat around the bush. Like talk about it up front. Talk about the elephant in the room. Like, yes, we're a business. Like certainly if that ever comes up, it establishes trust, like guaranteed, right? They're going to come around trusting you because you're telling the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So what are you guys doing for marketing? It seems like every couple months, like types of marketing are shifting, what's working, what's not. It's been really chaotic.
Yeah, man. So I'll be real honest. I have not been the best at keeping up with what's going on. And actually it's a big frustration of mine, frankly. But we have been, we've been buying leads a lot. We bought leads for, 2.5 years now, just with, success here and there. There will be months where it's great. Like we had a good month about 2 months ago, and then it just kind of falls off a cliff a little bit. We've cold called. I haven't cold called in a year or so. But we still have leads that we're following up with. We have one on our contract that's going to close next week from just cold calling. But I would, we plan on adding that again. And I plan on just cold calling niche lists. I don't know. I'm sure there's other people that would debate me on this, but I just don't feel like those broad lists. I mean, where I'm at right now in my business, it wouldn't make sense to just cold call or attack broad lists. It's just, there's so much niche stuff yet that I'm not marketing to yet. So
are you doing the cold calling or are you hiring somebody?
I've done it in the past and I've hired in the past. So I encourage anybody, if you plan on doing cold calling, you have to do it yourself for at least a couple weeks. Get in some hours because you're not going to be able to manage anybody properly without first having done it yourself. And get the scripts, they're all available. Somewhere. It's out there. So just get a dialer, Mojo, whatever, REsimpli, if you're on the REsimpli system, and just hit it up. I promise you, for people who are not natively extroverted, I love talking. I'm a freak. I love cold calling, right? I'm just saying, I love cold calling. Y'all can hate me. I don't care. I love it. So, but most people hate it, right? Most people hate it. And part of it, even for me, is just waiting for somebody to pick up the phone. That's the part that I hate. I love once somebody picks up the phone, boom, love it. But just follow a script. Following a script, you're practicing it. If you're an introvert, you don't like talking on the phone. I promise you do it a few times. You get, somebody cusses you out once or twice. That's all. It's just fine. You get used to it, and you build up some strong leather. And honestly, it's not that bad. You just got to do it a little bit, even if you might just hate it worse than anything else. Do it for a time, then hire it out.
Well, if you hate it, generally in the rule of thumb in life, if you don't want to do it or you don't like doing it, then that's probably what you should be doing. Especially based on your budget and your business. Like we are in the process of, we don't do any marketing in our business at all anymore. We've built this kind of brand, this cartoon character of me, and it just kind of magically brings deals. It's hard to explain. It's really funny.
That's what I need, a cartoon character. I need some magic cartoon characters.
We put a lot of money in like 2.5 years into ours, and it's finally like continuing to kind of work off of each other. And and it was funny. I was talking to one of my friends a couple weeks ago, and he's like, well, when do you know you're going to get leads? And we have a small business. We'll probably flip 20 homes this year. I just told him, I was like, I don't know. I don't have like a metric. And we hang up the phone, and 10 minutes later, my dumpster guy calls me, and he's like, hey, Brandon, I just got a call for a tenant, or for an owner evicting a tenant. They're doing a trash out. I asked him if he was selling. He said yes. And so is it cool if I give him your number and you guys talk? And we just bought it directly off market. Awesome. You know, and then we got one directly from my truck a couple weeks ago. But we have all these old leads from marketing, direct mail, buying leads, like stuff we've done. And we're in the process of bringing in a cold caller now. And the company that we're wanting to work with was wanting to have like this 8-hour-a-day cold caller. I was like, have you ever cold called for 8 hours in a day? It is awful. I'm looking for somebody like 2 to 4 hours, or maybe 2 hours, hour lunch, 2 hours again, something of that nature. I was like, because it is not something that I don't want somebody Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day on a dial.
Right. But if you outsource it, you got to make sure that they're not just cold calling in the afternoon for somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever. But 100%, I had one cold caller, and she was fantastic, but she wasn't necessarily a great closer. And she was a machine. But yeah, even her, like you get to like hour 4, hour 5, I mean, you see a pretty precipitous decline in quality of the conversations. So I don't know of too many people that can, I think the people that with those kind of personalities that could do that aren't the people that are going to natively be like cold calling, right? They're the people that want to do a task that doesn't involve talking to people.
And I heard a probably the best guy was out of Arizona, probably the best cold caller set up within his business. And he actually used people in the US, he hired actual employees in our office to be cold callers, but none of them worked in office. And they all had these weird quirks to them. So one of his cold callers would sit down, turn on a video game, and open a 6-pack of beer.
Oh, yeah. I know he is. He's playing games, and
and basically just gets a dialer on. He finishes the 6-pack, and he's done. And is like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it wasn't about getting drunk. It was just like that. He was just relaxed in his mode, and then he was done. They were efficient. He had he told a couple stories. I mean, this guy knew his cold calling down to the call, what it did. And for people doing that in business, texting's the same way. If you've ever sat in front of a computer for 8 hours sending text, even though you can use these softwares that send them and do all this stuff very easy, it is mind-numbing. It is painful.
It sure is. So we're doing pre-foreclosures, and it is certainly an interesting cat, right? Just a lot of texting, a lot of that stuff. And it gets old a little bit, but hey, you go the next day, you do it again, and you do it again. It's not like all day. You dedicate a couple hours to it and then just work on something else. But that's the nice thing about cold calling too, is if you're doing it yourself, I work on admin stuff while I'm cold calling, and pay bills or send emails or whatever, and then just stop when somebody answers the phone. So it's nice setup, especially if you got 2 screens, have your script here, or unless you memorized it, whatever, and then just. I mean, I don't mind it.
And for those people doing scripts, practice it in the mirror. Take your 100%. Time, get comfortable. You're gonna sound like an idiot. You're gonna screw up. You're gonna sound like a robot. That's inevitable. But if you take your time and practice it, in your vehicle or in front of a mirror or out loud, and it will become more natural and not sound like a script.
Yes, 100%. So with my team, with my acquisitions manager and I. Every Monday and Wednesday, we actually have a sales meeting where we are going through the scripts. And so, we each take a turn. Even though I'm not the upfront guy, he'll go through the script with me, and he'll pretend that he's a seller. and vice versa. So role play like that, like you could have a friend, like whoever's listening, you can have a friend or a spouse do that with you. And it does help. It definitely helps you become more comfortable with the script, with talking with somebody, because it does help to sound more confident when you're on the phone, and not having, like hold on, just being smooth with your speech and like a real person does help significantly.
And it helps, as you talked kind of earlier, it's that trust, that rapport, that connection. If you sound like you've done this before, then people are more comfortable with it versus, and that's some of the tough with outsourcing it. I was reviewing a cold call one time, and the person was going through it, and the seller said something to the nature of like one of her parents had passed away, and she was just tired, like just sounded exhausted. And the cold caller asked like a question on the script next. Instead of having any empathy, I'm sorry for your loss, whatever, and that's the hardest part to train. But I just listened to it and I'm like, we're done. Like we can't do it, because it's gone. It's like they tell you something emotional that you have the ability to talk to, and then it's like, so do you it's 1,800 square feet.
And you're just like, I just want to scream when you listen to that recording. Oh my gosh,
it's painful. And so like what you do with you said brother or brother-in-law?
My brother-in-law,
It's probably good that you script with him and not be on the front side, because you're going to have different questions. You're going to have different opinions, like role playing with somebody that isn't necessarily the salesperson.
Right. Yeah. And I throw it at him once in a while too, like give him like some weird situation. And then we talk about like, hey man, maybe you could have done this or whatever. But he's good, like he's a talker himself. Like he likes being in front of people. So it's a natural fit for him to be on the phone and talking with people. Like people, you have to have a love for people to I think to really be good. I mean, obviously you want to be good at closing, but I think for us in our business, we like to put the people first before the closing, right? Like, so like we help people out. Maybe it's kind of a bleeding heart, I guess, but there's some times when we've helped some people out, like we're not getting paid a dime on it. Like it's part of the nature of being in this business. Like you're not going to make money on everything, but like, let's just help them out. We get to this one lady in a mobile home park, for example. Like there's no way we're going to be able to do anything on this particular deal, but I walked her through a ton of different things. The park ended up, I think, buying her house, and there was a bunch of different things that we helped her with to get qualified for a nursing home, for example. So not a ton of work, but it was more work than I was hoping for.
It generally, that's the thing about it. Some of the deals that you don't get paid are some of your most amount of work, your biggest legwork, the biggest. Again, if you've helped people, connected people, like I love just saying, hey, this person can do X or before.
I mean, it comes around, certainly, right? It comes around. Like certainly, like I'd love to be, driving a Lambo, out in some crazy expensive market, whatever. But I also want to like have a fulfillment part of my business too, and I feel like that aspect of this, right? Like our business is right. We want to make as much money as we possibly can, obviously, right? But at the same time, like having a good core values to that allows me to go and help somebody out where I'm not going to make a dime. I feel like just makes the business worth doing instead of just making 10 grand or 20 grand here and there.
Absolutely. It makes it easy. It makes those hard days a lot easier. And in this journey, there are lots of hard days. So
it's up and down.
Yep. So now that you guys are focusing really hard on wholesale, are y'all trying to grow? Like what are kind of some hopes with your wholesale business?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, our goal isn't necessarily to be like a 7-figure wholesaling company. I mean, if it happens, then great, but I'm not pushing it hardcore in that direction. We want like a good business where, people can take vacations if they need to, but everything's covered. Marketing goes out consistently. Deals are coming in consistently. We don't need 10 at a time. I mean, if it happens, great. But I just want to be able to step away from my business and let it run. Maybe I can step away for a week or two and then come back and continue to operate. Like I don't want to just walk away from it. I enjoy doing it, but having more time to do other things is definitely what we want. So we're kind of making a hire, just administrative assistant. We had a small team, ended up letting everybody go for various reasons, either just not a good fit or just not getting the job done, whatever. We just started working with another bookkeeper. We just started, like I said, we're going to be hiring another admin assistant and then hopefully a lead manager after that.
Gotcha. Dude, hiring people I feel like you can get lucky in the beginning, but until you've hired and unfortunately fired and built stuff, like you don't even know what questions to ask. You don't know what to look for in somebody.
So I took a break right when I let our other team members go. I said, okay, well, I want to be really, really good at hiring, and I'll be really, really, really good at firing, because I've been kind of a pushover in the past. So part of what I want to do is just get clear metrics, right? Clear job descriptions, and like this is what's expected, and here's our KPIs for these different positions, right? So I know, okay, either you're doing your job or you're not doing your job. And just even on the hiring component, like, in the past, I haven't really, I use like the free disc test, just a pre-screen. That's okay. But, having a different, like a culture index or something else where you can kind of go more in depth on an individual and run them through that in the application process, I think it's going to be really helpful. So we go through this process of hiring a new administrative assistant. It's going to be, I'm actually looking forward to it, because it's going to be the first hire that I've made with our new hiring process. So I think it's going to be a lot better.
Yeah, I remember we've hired people and our last assistant, like we weren't really defined with stuff. Like we weren't defined with sick leave. We weren't defined with it, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, I didn't think to ask these things. I didn't think to. And so now the newest person because that's kind of the one thing we have. My wife has a staging business, and so we have an admin that kind of helps between the two of us. And then so when we brought her on, like I tried to go through. I was like, all right, when I hired this person, these are the conversations that we didn't have. When I hired this person, these are the conversations we didn't have. And then put everything in writing. And at the end of the day, like being a small business, and we talk about, kind of working from home and being pretty fluid with a lot of stuff. Like we weren't looking for 9 to 5 days a week. We were looking for, there's going to be some nights, there's going to be some weekends, there's going to be some Wednesdays you can have off. Like it's going to be pretty fluid. But what I liked about having it all written down and having a process is if that process is broken, or if what's written down comes up, we ultimately have the ability to make a decision without feeling guilty or stuff like that. And so that's
100%.
It feels so much better to like put a process in place, follow it, hire somebody.
I mean, and if it doesn't work out, you can just go back to your process and follow your checklist there and just get it done. Holy smokes, when I started documenting stuff and putting together my standard operating procedures, is like made everything so much easier. I mean, like even just now, like I have a friend who's got a rental, and I just did a tenant placement for him. And I was like, frick, man, like I've done this so many times, but it's been like 2 years since I've done a tenant placement. Like I was like trying to remember like the process and the steps and the paperwork that I needed to do, because I didn't write it down. I didn't have a standard operating procedures put together. So as I'm doing this, I'm writing it down and putting the steps in place. And it was just like, man, it would have saved me so much time if I would have freaking wrote it down 2 years ago or whenever it was. So and then I got a library of videos on Loom now, just for the past 2 years of being on there. So
and that's what I've learned. If somebody asks you a question, instead of just typing out the question, make a video, send it to them, and then that question's not answered forever. It can make the world's different.
Right. So for any newbies out there watching this, like get a Loom account, and I mean, what is it, $100 a year, $200 a year? It's like super cheap. But when you're making videos, like name them what's in the video, and then like put them in a folder, so you don't have to like figure out what's in the videos later on, right? Like I did that right away. I had like Loom for a few months, and I'm like, frick, I have all these random videos. I don't know what they are anymore, because they're stupid naming conventions. So
they're named Test 1.3 June 15th, 2022. Yep.
So dumb, but it's helpful.
Yeah, video library. And so what is your I'm always curious, small businesses, you're hiring an administrative assistant. That's a pretty loose-ended role. Like how did you determine like your business was ready for this? and what is that person?
Yeah, great
kind of roughly
question.
gonna be doing?
So I've had administrative assistants for about 3 years now. I've had 3 different ones. Last one I had, she was with me for about 18 months. But yeah, it was just willy-nilly. It was a knee-jerk hire, honestly. So yeah, 2 years ago, I was like swamped. I had retail deals coming on my ears, which is great problem. But a lot of paperwork, a lot of admin stuff. I'm just like, I gotta hire somebody. But now I have this nice SOP put together on specific tasks that we want. So for example, for retail deals, we have this like retail order form that we just created. It's just a Google form. So when we have a retail customer, I can just fill out the form. This is all the stuff that's needed. This is the type of retail deal it is. And it just sends our admin assistant an email, and she or he can just put together all the documents and prep everything, look up the property, get all the information for the property, put it in the paperwork, and just be done with it, right? Save me a bunch of time. Same thing for transaction coordination, right? I have a list of TC stuff that needs to happen for wholesale deals, for retail deals, whatever. And all that's part of the admin assistant's job description. So just follow this when we have a deal. Right, and REsimpli gives our TC different tasks at different stages of the pipeline to make sure that things happen. Another example, let's see. Just grabbing lists, scrubbing them, skip tracing them, make sure they're formatted properly so that we can call them. And even when calling them, we use 2 different skip tracers, so we put them in through one. If it doesn't come through, like put these specific leads into the second skip tracer and get this right. That's a administrative task that I don't ever want to do again.
Yeah.
Ever. So
And it's easy.
Right. It's stupid easy. And, it's something that, somebody in the Philippines or anywhere in the whole world can do. I guess I keep thinking of like, if it's not location specific, I'm trying to put an SOP together so I can outsource it. Especially if it's administratively. Like,
so is your admin, are you going overseas or trying to find a VA admin?
100%. There's so many quality people overseas. Like, I know several other businesses that have some incredible VAs. I've had good ones. And like I had one, actually, she was in Ukraine. She was awesome, but we don't know what's going on there right now. So she wasn't able to continue. So, I mean, yeah, the top-notch people, in my opinion, sounds terrible, but I would never pay an American to do VA work, like administrative work, unless it's like higher level stuff, I suppose. But I've had Americans. I had a company, hired them for a few months, and they were good, but they weren't any better than a really good person in the Philippines for $4 an hour or $5 an hour, or whatnot. So I just have a hard time justifying hiring local when it can be hired overseas for a fraction of the cost.
And it's a good mindset to have, is like, there are people in other places that can do this stuff easier than I can, faster than I can. There are people that enjoy doing these things where you probably don't enjoy pulling a list, scrubbing it, skip tracing it twice, reformatting it, and then, uploading it, moving it. And I've had some amazing VAs in my life.
Yeah, I will say though, like hiring out cold callers, of people that are gonna be on the phones with American sellers, like you definitely you want somebody who's lived in the States for a good amount of time, understands like American jargon, American slang, like can speak to you like an American, because that's not, I've hired Philippine cold callers, I've hired Americans living abroad, and yeah, there's definitely a major difference between the two, like Americans or people who've lived in America versus somebody who's never lived in America and lives in a different culture, right? Like speak English great, but can they shoot the breeze, right? Can they just build rapport instead of, some little old lady saying she just lost her husband? Are you going to still ask her, well, how much do you want for the house, right? You're going to have that American jargon, like get into empathy a little bit more and being able to have an actual conversation with them instead of just following a script.
It is. And it wasn't until we hired people, and not even hired people in the Philippines. We had this, we hired like a company a long time ago. The company had some division, and then a whole bunch of VAs kind of got lost in the middle.
I know what you're talking about, because I heard them too.
And a couple of mine like came to me and was like, we're not getting paid. We don't have a job. Like, we don't know if we still work for you. And so we ended up onboarding them directly. And through that process, I learned so much about their culture and so much about everything that it was. Like my mindset shifted into what a VA is. Like I was the person in the beginning, I almost treated a VA like a machine versus a person.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, it's a service, do something for 8 hours a day. Here's what I want you to do and do it. And then I realized just because they're across the country, across the world, doesn't mean that they don't have emotion. They don't have,
right.
They don't have problems that exist in their life. And it took me learning that. And then it taught me how to teach and coach them to do it. Cause I would say stuff that made sense to me and they'd be like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And we had to work through and kind of coach that. And it is something as you bring them into your business, realize it always sounds so weird saying this. They're human beings too. And just because we're hiring them for whatever the cost is, for whatever the task is, and they need to be coached, they need to be trained, they need to be immersed in the culture of your business, your company, just like anybody else would be.
Yeah, 100%. I think it does help if you have ever been to like a third world country or a country that you are hiring to, like if you've been to the Philippines and you're hiring Filipinos, like you can understand their culture a little bit better as well. Yeah, having that mindset of like treating them with respect and dignity, instead of just a cog in your machine. You're 100% right there.
And it sounds so weird to say because, it's like if you were to meet them face to face, they're a human being, they're a person. Right. But it feels weird when it's just this company that's hiring them, that's doing X. Yeah. I remember my eye-opening one was we got on a Zoom call, and this was like a little bit later in the day. And my VA had wet hair, and I was like, oh, did you just get out of the shower? I asked something, and she was explaining to me that they had to take their water and boil it, pour it into their bathtub, and then they only had so many minutes to take a hot bath before they no longer had hot bath water. And I was like, wow, and that was, where I can go 10 feet over here into my shower and hit it and have hot water in 45 seconds. It was that kind of piece, and it's still crazy for me to think that I have to say that, but I've talked to new people hiring VAs, and I'm like, listen, this is it sounds crazy, but yes, you have to do certain things.
100%, man.
Dude, I appreciate your time. I don't want to keep any longer. Anything else that you want to share? Any tidbits? Because I think what you said best early on is like make decisions, take action. Is the most important.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds so cliche, but like it's totally true. I think you have to just internalize it, and it took me a long time to just be like, just do it, because I think I was just stuck on so many different questions. I got to know the answer for this or for that, and just doing something like is going to propel you. Like do something, and not just do something that doesn't matter, right? Just like do something that's like revenue generating activities, like picking up the phone or going to call a realtor with a listing or whatever, right? Just gotta do stuff like that. Like just it's going to happen. My dad, when I was in as a financial advisor, he always said like part about one thing about the business is just like being in it for a certain amount of time. Like you just get business over time, but you also have to like go and do stuff. You have to go and be proactive. And I think the same with any other business, like you just spend time doing, like being proactive, like it's going to happen. Like it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. You just got to keep doing positive things in your business. So
absolutely. Well, Jamison, I appreciate your time. If you guys or gals have any deals in Grand Rapids, Michigan, I'm sure he'd love to see them. And if they want to know some more about you, where can they find you, follow you, reach out to you?
I mean, I am on Facebook. I'm terrible at social media, man. Like,
it's all right.
But yeah, I'm on Facebook, Jamison Worst, Jamison with an I, Worst like the word. I mean,
it's so hard. Yeah. You told me right before we recorded it, and I still got it wrong. I was like, I just didn't say Worst.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can shoot me an email, Jamison W, JAMISONW @belltowerproperties.com.
Awesome, man. I appreciate your time.
Cool. Thanks, Brandon. Have a good one.